So we took a little trip to Nags Head for Bike Week, and it wasn't without incident. And stay tuned, I'll tell you all about it. And welcome back to Bob's Garage. If this is your first time here, thanks for stopping by. But yeah, my wife and I and a bunch of our core group of friends, Jimmy and Brian and Keith and Shannon and Josh, we all hopped on the bikes. Well, some of us hopped on the bikes, some of us hopped in a trailer, and we went out to Nags Head in the Outer Banks of North Carolina for their bike week. So we got the bikes all lined up here, and we had a great trip riding down. Keith and I and Heidi, my wife, we rode. We didn't mind the rain and the cold, and Heidi did a great job keeping up. You know, we're doing 80 miles an hour on the freeway and stuff, and we were doing great. And the rain let up for a while, and then finally it stopped. So we were enjoying that. But we're going down this one highway, and I look in my mirror, and Heidi was behind me, and I noticed that she was dropping back a little bit. And I look forward, and Keith, he just pulled over because we knew something was up. So I parked the bike and walked back on the shoulder of the road, and her bike she said that the check engine light, the oil light came on, and then the bike just died, and she coasted to the side of the road. So we were like, geez, you know, I stood there for 20 minutes looking at it like I knew what I was doing, because I'm not mechanically inclined. Then Keith walked back, and you know, with the oil light on, we thought, well, maybe it's out of oil. We checked oil pressure, oil was fine, everything was good. So we thought, well, let's at least push it and get it up to where we were parked, where Keith and I were parked. And then we remembered that Jimmy and Brian and Josh were coming in a truck with a trailer. So we figured they'd be a couple hours behind us, but we could wait until they got there and we could load Heidi's bike into the trailer. Well, Keith gave them a call. As fate would have it, they were only 15 minutes behind us, which worked out great. So we pushed the bike up there, and while we were waiting, as they were pulling in, I was on the phone. I called Speedway Harley-Davidson, our local dealer, and talked with Dennis, the service manager. He answered the phone. He's like, hey, Bob, how are you? And I said, well, you know, we've been better. And I explained the situation to him, what was going on. And he's like, well, let's go through your codes and see if you're throwing an error code. So we went through the diagnostic modes, and we weren't throwing any codes. He's like, well, that's good news. There's nothing major wrong with her bike. So then he's like, I got an idea. He said, were you riding in the rain? I'm like, oh, absolutely. We're pretty soaked. He goes, okay, you just had some water. And the connection was kind of breaking up. Water got into something. I'm not sure what. Rain got into something. So he's like, I think I got an idea. I said, okay. He said, turn the on-off switch on, off, on, off, on, off 3 times. I said, well, I did. He's like, now turn it on and start the bike. So I turned it on, I started the bike, it fired right up, the lights were off. He's like, yeah, it just got wet, it had to dry out. You're fine. So just to be safe, we had another, I don't know, hour or so to ride. We did put it in the trailer and brought it back. But last night we went out riding, her bike's been fine, everything's been great. There were no issues with it. So thank you to Dennis at Speedway for helping us out. And so I haven't taken any other video of this trip, but we're having a great time. And a few folks went and did a Target run to get us some supplies and stuff, and it's gonna rain in a couple of hours. So once the rain stops, we're gonna get out and do more riding, visit the local Harley stores, and then tomorrow's supposed to be a beautiful day. So maybe I'll get some more footage for then. But so far, so good. We're having a good time, and thanks for stopping by. Thanks for coming along for the ride, and I'll have more footage soon. Thanks. Well, as you can see, we are back from Bike Week, and I don't have any additional footage. I'll tell you what happened. I recorded that last snippet, and it poured after that. I mean, it just absolutely downpoured. And then you know, we did go visit the local Harley dealers. We went to Nags Head Harley-Davidson, Outer Banks Harley-Davidson, and First Flight Harley-Davidson. 2 of them were just like t-shirt merchandise type places, and then only one, I think that was the Outer Banks Harley-Davidson, actually had bikes. Not a ton. They had a band going, but because of the weather, I mean, it poured, and because of the weather, most of the vendors weren't there. Some left early. There really wasn't much to see or do, so I had nothing to record. So there's going to be another Outer Banks Bike Week to make up for this one later in the year in September. I don't think we'll be going to that. We do have some other trips planned. We're going to be going to Myrtle Beach for Bike Week. We've got a trip to Helen, Georgia for their biker event that they have down there. We've got some day trips and stuff like that planned, but I really wanted to get you some footage of the Outer Banks, but man, the weather was so bad. It was just cold and rainy. Now, we did come home, my wife and I, Heidi and I came home on Saturday, just because we knew there was going to be a bit of a break in the weather, brief one. We hopped on the bikes. It was a little chilly, but it warmed up a little bit, but the sun was out, and so we had a nice ride home. We were dry. Got home, got these bikes cleaned up because they were unbelievably dirty after riding on the highway in the soaking rain. And then the rest of the gang, they stayed until Sunday because they had the trailer and the car. So they told us we were lucky we came back on Saturday, because on Sunday it rained so hard you couldn't even see in front of you. They had to slow down with their flashers on. It rained so hard. So and don't get me wrong, we had a fantastic time, and I want to thank Brian and Josh and Jimmy and Shannon and Keith and Heidi. We had a great time. We really did. We made the best of it. We made the best of a bad situation. The weather stunk, but we played some games. The Airbnb we stayed in was absolutely beautiful. So we really made the best of a bad situation, and I had a great time. We made some really good memories, and it was a lot of fun. So I don't regret it. It would have been great if the weather were nicer and we'd gotten out and there were more vendors and stuff, but hey, it is what it is. We made the best of it. We had a great time. So an update on the Lowrider S. Heidi rode it home on Saturday without any incident, and apparently something got wet, and I followed Dennis's instructions as I mentioned earlier, and everything worked out great. So special thank you to Dennis and Speedway Harley-Davidson for bailing us out there, because if I had taken it to the local dealer up there, who knows what they would have charged me to do what I did on the side of the road. So this really saved us a lot of hassle, a lot of time and money. So it was thank you very much to Dennis and to Speedway Harley-Davidson. So anyway, the trip is over. We're back home. The bikes are cleaned up. We're ready for the next adventure. I want to thank you all for coming along for the ride, and we'll see you again next week.